Well, here we are on Beyond the Headlines once more. My name is Benjamin Akakbo, and we go live talking about legal education in Ghana. Now, this is a very topical matter, and in recent weeks, in recent days, a lot of people have raised concerns about it, including the Member of Parliament for Medina, Francis Xavier Kojo Sosu, who has actually put a petition before Parliament summoning the General Legal Counsel to bring those raw scores as they are for Parliament to take a look. That is the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. Now, we get into all those issues this morning as we interact with our guests who join us from the legal end of matters I'm talking about, and I'll just give you the details shortly. Hassan Asari, who's seated right next to me, is with the National Association of Law Students, and he is here. They have been talking a lot about this matter, and we'll be getting into the recent, press conference that was organized and what exactly they had to share on that matter. But Mr. Asari, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
I'd appreciate it if you could speak up a bit more.
Okay.
There's also Wanda Victor Kuto, who is SRC president with the Ghana School of Law. Wanda, good morning to you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's hit the nail on the head. This matter has festered for quite a while, and now we're back at it. Since 2012 or so, we've had real issues in terms of legal education. But if I were to ask you, Hassan, starting with you, to give me a general overview of legal education in Ghana. Assume I am an outsider or stranger, and I were to ask you, what is legal education in Ghana like, especially when it comes to getting into the School of Law? What would you have told me as an insider?
Okay. I am not at the moment at the professional level. I have completed my LLB, so I can only speak from the LLB point to entering Makola
What you do know,
That's
yes.
right. So as it stands right now, I think it needs a total overhaul.
Total overhaul.
Total. Because you see, I was speaking to a friend yesterday, and I said you cannot put a square peg in a round hole. Lawyers and judges are supposed to adjudicate. Their place is not to run education. So that by itself is the first question that I will pose to anybody who asks me such a question. Number two, you have the chairman of the GLC being the CJ. His three immediate associates are also on the board. The Attorney General who represents the President is on that board. You have GBA on that board. You have the faculty of University of Lagos on that board. Now, when there are issues and you have to resolve them, indirectly you are going back to the same board that took a decision to actually adjudicate on the matter.
And that people have said is a self-inflicted problem, because you remember, for example, when the former Chief Justice, Ekufo, made mention of certain things and that legal education was not going to be watered down and all of that. If you had concerns, you would have to go back to the same General Legal Counsel over which he was chair.
That's the problem.
So that is the crux of the matter.
So that is why I think the GLC itself needs a total overhaul.
What kind of overhaul are you thinking?
Can we imagine having the legal education placed under, let's say, the Ministry of Education? Let's assume. They run education. Now, they can seek the opinion of these gurus or these well-vested people to actually advise them on which way to go in one way or the other. But if we had the Ministry of Education running this, total overhaul, what I mean by that is to ensure we can find a way of actually separating these people from actually running as the board of this educational body. Why do I say this? Now, let me bring you back to 2020, which was last year. We filed a petition to actually scrap a provision, which is a requirement for writing an exam, which the provision says a student must sign an undertaking.
Right. And we'll be getting to some of those fine details, so you can just scratch the surface, because we'll take them apart one by one.
Good.
Right.
So the High Court makes, in fact, pronounces on the matter. I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. How does a High Court judge instruct his CEO, who is the CJ, to implement a provision or actually a decision she has made. So I feel we need to find a way to work this out differently to get a fine way of going forward as a school, rather than keeping this board and hoping that things will change.
So one major thing, of course, we have in this document some of those changes you would like to see, reforms, if you like. But Wanda, for you, it's an interesting story. I don't know whether you'd like to share it, how you even got into the law school when you didn't even intend, plying this path. I don't know whether you want to get into that, but your general impressions of legal education, so to speak, in Ghana, especially at this point in time, from 2012, where there's been a lot of hue and cry over access to education, and it's not about quality, so to speak, because the quality is there from the faculties. The problem is access to, the final hall, which is the professional level. What is your take?
Thank you very much, and good morning to our viewers, the viewers.
Right. Just speak up a little for us.
Your question is so broad, so that one may find it difficult to know where exactly to start from. But just to let you know that the legal education in Ghana keeps improving. However, there's more to be done. There's more to be done. I'll be grateful if you come with specifics so I could address it.
If you had to give a general overview of legal education currently in Ghana in terms of access, what would you say? And I base this, let me make the picture clearer for you. I am a graduate of the Faculty of Law at the University of Ghana. I did not sit the entrance exam this year. But I'll tell you how stringent it is to even get into the faculty. This is like, Ivy League institutions, some of them take what? 7%, 10%. Let me break it down for you. And I'm not saying this is a requirement. I made a 3.9 out of 4.0 undergrad, getting into the Faculty of Law. I got into the Faculty of Law, and let me just tell you this. Those who applied, the pool of applicants, just about 1,000 plus. You go and sit an entrance exam there for the institution. After the entrance exam, they shortlist to about 300 out of 1,000 plus, 300 for an interview. And out of the 300, they pick 70. What percentage is that? 4, 5, 6%. So already it is so stringent getting into some of these faculties. The requirements are so steep. You get in there, you have to go through the whole mass of legal education and the strains, and for people like me who were working alongside, hellish, but you go through it. Then you go and sit another batch of, entrance exams or an entrance exam, and even there, the plot is not so clear because, like some are saying now, you shift the goalposts and all of that. That is the picture I am painting, Wanda.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I'm happy you've referred to the faculties because I think that the problems actually start from the faculties.
Right.
And I'm also happy that you qualified it by saying some of these faculties. And the University of Ghana, no doubts, is one of the toppest law faculty in Ghana, no doubts. But can we say same? Now we have about 17 law faculties in Ghana.
Right.
Check the reports. I think it was published in 2019 or so.
Yes. I saw those ones about the various faculties and the requirements they were meeting and those they were not.
If you can decide not to even check the report, just go to some of the faculties and check their library. Check their law library.
Right.
Let's be honest. You see, I will not mention name of any institution, but I'm saying that not all faculties have that strength. Do you understand? To push legal education. But it will be interesting for you to note that it is those faculties that are rather admitting more students.
Right.
At the faculty level.
And I agree with you.
You have just mentioned University of Ghana, the process and all that. Look at the facility at the University of Ghana and look at the few number of students that are admitted to do the LLB at the University of Ghana.
Right.
Compared to other faculties that do not even have good library.
But are admitting so many of them. So that is part of the problem, because here it is. Hassan, I see you shaking your head, and I'll let you have a bite shortly. But here is another part of the problem. If there is a systemic problem for some of the institutions, don't make it a general problem, because then it affects people from these institutions that are doing everything, which is why some people have said that let the faculties, after you've made them go through a certain stringent list of requirements to meet, when they meet them, let's go back to what pertained before, so that right from the faculty. If you qualify from faculty, you're going straight to the Ghana School of Law. Rather than make it entrance exam upon entrance exam. I mean, we even had to go through the instance, Professor Asari, taking on the Attorney General and the General Legal Counsel, where they were forced to do away with even the interview, because then you would even do the entrance exam and then go through an interview where, through some discretionary means, some people would be eliminated.
Yes, before Mr. Hassan comes in, I just want our viewers to know that this conversation is in contest. It has nothing to do with the 499 candidate that the SRC is pushing that they should be admitted.
Not the current bit.
Yeah, you are having my understanding of your question.
No, it's a general conversation before we get to some of those ones.
I've noticed that as soon as I go for interview, by the time I leave, then bloggers say, oh, SRC said this, then people start bashing. So we should put it in context.
Right. You should deal with the bloggers, because as for our setup, we only report what you've said, as you've said it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Hassan, I noticed you wanted to interject on that.
Yes,
matter.
with the issue of the faculties. The questions I ask myself is, who accredited them?
Right.
What systems are in place to ensure that they do what is expected of them?
Very good questions.
Is it my problem as a student to attend that lecture, and because you think the facility or the faculty is a bad one, I should fail? I thought we have task force who follow some of these. In fact, I also read that document he's talking about. I did not see anywhere a recommendation to shut down or withdraw an accreditation of any of those universities. What are we talking about? We are blaming the people. People have power to close down, shut down, withdraw accreditation and everything. If you accredited them, it means they met something. Why should
is it a failure then of the accrediting institution?
You should push it to them. I don't know why that should be a problem with me. Because if you went out and you saw it, the question is, what did you do with it?
Right.
It shouldn't come as a justification for failing people. If the libraries are bad, you either stock them, you close them, do whatever you have to do to ensure that it meets your expectation.
Right.
But you shouldn't push it on the student.
And if they don't meet your expectation, they shouldn't be out there in the first place.
Of course.
Running the program.
Of course. I'm not in a decision-making position when it comes to those faculties. So deal with it, rather than blaming it on the student.
Wanda, it's interesting. Hassan here has not yet started the professional program, but you have.
Yes, please.
You're SRC president at the Ghana School of Law. Now, this year's entrance exam, and it's been mired by so many things, from raw scores that Francis Xavier Sosu is calling for in Parliament, to shifting the goalpost, saying 50%, but post-exam 50% is not exactly 50%. 50% is 50% plus 50% to get 50%, if you understand what I mean. In other words, 50% of section A, the 20 multiple choice questions, then section B as well, to get a total of 50% plus before you qualify. How do you feel about this development? And I see you have the list there. How do you feel about this development this year? Because we've never seen this before.
Thank you very much. Luckily for me, I have the raw scores here.
Right.
Of all the 2,824 candidates who sat for the examination. And the SRC has since done an audit of that. But you see,
when you say an audit of that, what exactly do you mean?
So we've been able to audit to know those who got the 50% and above.
Right.
You understand? Who have met the minimum 50% per the president of the General Legal Council.
Right.
So that in the past, I mean, that has been a consistent practice. Now, once you get 50% and above, you've passed. So the SRC has done an audit.
It doesn't matter whether you score 10% here or 40% on the other one to get your 50. You are passed.
Yes, per the consistent and past practice of the General Legal Council. We'll come to the notice soon.
Right.
The notice that sought to bring a new dimension. We'll come to that notice soon. Yes. But per our audits, 499 candidates have met the 50% pass criteria, but were not part of the 790 candidates who have been deemed as passed and eligible for admission. Before I proceed, just to point out to you that some of the blame has to also go to Parliament, and I'll justify it soon.
Has to go to Parliament?
Yes. So I'm surprised.
Explain why.
I will tell you why. And I'm surprised that when results come, then MPs start issuing notice, press release, and I'm surprised because the blame some has to go to Parliament. Let me tell you why. I have with me here the budget that was submitted to Parliament.
Right. And that has come up.
Paragraph 1055. It says what? That they expect that students who will be admitted for this year will be 550.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was on a show with the honorable member for Akachi, lawyer I hear for, and he said that his committee, which is a ranking member for constitutional legal affairs, they pushed for it to be increased to about
800 thereabout.
Thank you. So on the face of it, it will appear as though Parliament has tied the hand of the General Legal Council to work within the setting.
But when you look at the other side, of course, it is the General Legal Council, and the budgets that they are presenting. Just a point.
Right.
The budget that they are presenting to Parliament. Of course, you don't expect Parliament to necessarily dictate to the General Legal Council about what numbers they should be taking. Of course, Parliament would want to have an impact, but they don't determine the numbers per the logistics available and all of that. But even if you look at the point that they presented a budget for about 500 and something, we could have meant that even this year we could have been looking at far lower numbers, okay? And they pushed it up to about 800. It means that from the House of Parliament, if I were a parliamentarian, I would be thinking that they want the numbers to go up. And we've shown that we have the capacity to do that, because only last year we took way more than that in different institutions. So why go back?
Yes, we are on the same page. So what prevented Parliament from increasing the number to 1,500? If Parliament knew that last year 1,045 students were admitted, what prevented Parliament?
Right.
And it's surprising. As soon as the result came out, they started issuing press statements and aggrieved law students petitioned Parliament. But the thing started from Parliament. Let us not shift the issues.
I think it would be fair to say the thing started with the General Legal Council, continued with Parliament, and ended or culminated in what we are seeing now, the mass failures.
So back to the General Legal Council. But I just wanted to be clear.
Point made.
Yes, it's not as though Parliament is sacrosanct in this matter. You understand?
So they also to blame.
Look, they even said 800. 800. So what is the point?
Right.
And General Legal Council have paid their first distance. They've said that 790, which is close to the 800 Parliament set.
Right.
So I'm saying on the face of it, on the face of it, it may appear as though the General Legal Council was working based on what the approval given from Parliament.
Right.
And I'm saying that our MPs ought to have known that if last year over 1,000 students were admitted, they could have also recommended that, let's say this year 1,500 and 1,600 should be admitted. I'm saying this.
We don't know for a fact that they didn't do that. All we know is that the agreement in the end per the budget was for about 800. We don't know for a fact that they didn't make a move for the numbers to be shot up to what they were like last year.
Thank you. But it is not about the move, it is about the finality.
Right.
What comes from Parliament is that this year they recommended or they approved 800.
Okay. Point made on that. Follow up.
Now to the General Legal Council. My issue and my worry has to do with the issue of fairness.
Fairness?
Yes. The General Legal Council is an administrative body. I mean, the members on the council are very great and wonderful personality, and no doubt about that. But when they meet as a council, they perform administrative function. You understand? All public bodies are established by law. You understand? And they perform administrative functions. In the performance of their administrative function, they exercise discretionary powers. Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution tells us how discretionary powers ought to be exercised. Article 296A says that discretionary powers have to be exercised in a fair manner. You have an implied duty to be fair and candid. You get a point. So there's an issue of fairness. Now, if you look at the case of Awuni vs. Waye, one of the elements of fairness is reasonable notice. Right. You understand? Reasonable notice. Now, if you look at the notice by the General Legal Council, that sought to eliminate some candidates because they ought to have gotten 50% as Section A. 50% means 20 over 40 or 20 and above. You understand? In Section A, and 50% in Section B. That is 50 and above. This notice ought to have been communicated to the candidates, the applicants, before the entrance examination. I have here the advert, daily graphic, issued by the chairman of the Independent Examination Committee on May 14th. Page 28 of the daily graphic states it gives us the criteria for selection and the fact that students will write entrance examination before being considered for admission to the Ghana School of Law. Right. On this note, on this advert, it will have been fair if the said notice was contained in the advert. That way, students will have what? Will have gotten prior notice and will have prepared properly. Now, there's also the issue of legitimate expectation. Right. And in law, legitimate expectation is one of the grounds for judicial review. Right. And I've said earlier that the General Legal Council is an administrative body. For that matter, they are amenable to either administrative review or judicial review. And what do we mean by legitimate expectation? Legitimate expectation has to do with conduct and practices, consistent practices of an institution in the past, and the representation they've made to the public or relevant stakeholders. What has been the conduct and representation of the General Legal Council to the public? The past conduct and representation is that once you get 50% minimum and above, you are eligible for admission.
Right.
Which is why in 2019, only 128 candidates were admitted because the rest of the applicants got 49.5 and below. So they were all deemed to have failed. 2020, which I was also part of the lucky team, 1,045 of us got 50% and above.
Right.
That has been the consistent practice. There was nothing like Section A, Section B. So there's that issue of legitimate expectation. So the candidates, they had that legitimate expectation, which is fine. In the case of Kanda versus the government of Malaysia, talks about prior notice, legitimate expectation, and all of that.
So wrap up on
this. May be a foreign case.
What is the thrust of that point? Just wrap up on that.
So the point is that this notice, in this current form, because it's the effect of this notice that we are talking about.
Right.
The effect is that the notice as it stands now, it's unfair. Okay. It's unfair. That's the position of the SRC. It's unfair. It's unfair, and for that matter, the 499 candidates that per our audit got the 50% and above should be admitted.
That is the 499.
Yes, who got the 50?
Yes, who crossed the 50%
50
mark?
and above should be admitted.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Who got 50 or above?
Yes. Should be admitted.
Hassan.
Yes.
It's been interesting, and I'm sure you agree with what he's saying on the stand of if they got 50 and above, those 499, they should be admitted. In addition to the 28% that supposedly have made it through. But let's start with the entire application process. We have limited time, but I want us to digest the issues properly.
Okay.
There was a document saying the decision of the admission of admission by the General Legal Council shall be final. And you know that in law, when they use shall, it means it is obligatory. That is what it's going to be. But students were, well, let me just say, they had to sign onto this because they wanted to sit the exam. How do you feel about that? It also means you can't legally, you consented. You can't, after the exam, come and say, oh, I'm taking you to court, and it creates some legal problems.
I will tackle this issue, but let me go back a little bit to something.
Please speak up a little.
I will tackle the issue, but let me go back to something that
it would have to be brief.
Brief, yes. So if Parliament can determine the numbers that go into the law school, it means the GLC is not autonomous. That's what it means.
It means the GLC
is not autonomous because they determine for them to do.
Right.
No, that is wrong. I don't think that is how it should be. If that is what I am hearing. In fact, I wasn't there when he met the MP he's referring to, but that would not be a good thing. Number two, I've had issues of, I think the last CJ saying that he doesn't want the mass something, like admitting a mass.
You're referring to Madam Akufo.
Akufo, yes. Now, student pass exam, because you don't have the space, or because you've been given a quota,
a cap,
you are forced to fail them according to your definition.
Is that what you feel is happening? They are forced to fail people?
But if you are telling me that you had a limit of 700 or 800 and 1,200 passed, why would you suddenly come out with a law that disenfranchises the rest? What is your interest? You are trying to meet the bid of whoever said you should do what you're doing. That's what it means. Now, let's move to the issue of the examination. Now, the undertaking by itself, I think, is wrong. It's really sad that we are talking about law exam. You expect them to do right. They should actually be spearheading what the law is. Are
you suggesting this notice was illegitimate, maybe even illegal, in quote?
If you are referring to the notice.
Since we are referring to the law here.
Of course, void admission, that's what it is. Because
right from the start.
Of course. You see, we shouldn't try and say the notice it came in late, we were not aware, so it's a non-starter. We shouldn't even speak to it. People pass the exam. You should give them admission. End of story. Now, let's go to the requirements for the exams. An undertaking. Why should we undertake? You see, it actually questions the exam itself. I'm going to write an exam. I am forced to sign an undertaking to say that whatever happens, I won't question.
But this wouldn't be the first exam with such a clause.
Well, I have not heard some anywhere apart from with what I'm dealing with. But in any case, is it justifiable?
Right.
Why has nobody spoken to that issue? Why do I always have to sign an undertaking that I won't question? In fact, as we talk, the PLC, they know, I mean the professional locals, they go for remarking and sometimes up to 90% pass what they had failed. So it presupposes that there are possibilities of mistakes. If for any reason my lecturer, instead of writing 74, writes 47, and I knew I did very well in that exam, how do I challenge it? But let me take you back to 2020. A high court in Ghana declared the undertaking as unconstitutional. As we speak today, nothing has happened. What are we trying to encourage?
We can go back to the Ganaku.
The Ganaku case is what I'm referring to.
And you know what happened there and the appeal,
of course,
and you know matters proceeding from there. It would appear that the General Legal Counsel, would I say, is overweening. It will have its way in the end, wouldn't it?
I like the word you use. Would have its way. Not because they legitimately have to actually win that case. Have its way. That has been what has persisted over the period. So
it's a thread that has been running through. But it's clear the point you're making. But do you feel it is retrogressive then? And for both of you gentlemen, do you feel it is retrogressive? And this is what I mean. You must be progressive. Legal education must move forward. We all have an agreement that there must be some reform because the state in which we find it is problematic. People genuinely feel, and when you have a situation where people genuinely feel, I did what was required to get X, yet I am not getting X, you create problems in society, whether it is legal education or anything else. But if in the year just passed, you could take in about 1,500 students.
Politics.
And the very next year, and somehow you could find the what do you call those, infrastructure to house 1,500 students. And in the immediate year after that, you say you can't find it and you can't accommodate them. How problematic is that? How retrogressive is that?
I actually think, in my opinion, 2020 was purely political.
Purely political?
Purely political.
How
and
so?
I'll tell you why. Before 2020, they used to run a one system where they go for lectures from Mondays to Friday. When 2020 happened, they ran a shift system. You pick Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday and Thursday, or Friday and Saturday. So it means that they didn't have the infrastructure in the first place. They were forced to take that decision to try and.
I know they were operating from different campuses.
I'm not disputing that, but even that is causing them to still run a shift system. Previously, it was a one system. They go Monday, Tuesday, all the way to Friday. So they had to find a way to resolve the problem with the intake then. I feel it's very political. Me.
Okay, you feel it's political. What is your take on that? Is it retrogressive? 1 year, yay, we're able to do twice as much, and then we come back to this number. What's your reaction? Very quickly on that.
Yeah.
Because there are other matters I want us to discuss. Very quickly on that.
Yeah, but before on a more lighter note, our SRC secretary, Mr. Safo Kwame Oheniba, he's watching. He said his regards to you, and he knows you very, very well, Safo. I'm sure.
Well,
baby Safo.
Yes, baby Safo.
Yeah. Quick one. I'm sure as part of our conversation, people give us feedback. I'm told there was a comment here that the General Legal Council gives accreditation to legal institutions. I don't know whether that's what.
No. I don't think that's the point here.
Because somebody just averted my mind. There's a National Accreditation Board that gives the accreditation. I didn't hear you. I just wanted to make this point clear. Now to your straight question about whether we are making progress or not. Just to make a point that when the Ghana School of Law started, it started with just one campus. Now we have 3 campuses, one at Green Hill and one at Kumasi. So there's always an attempt to progress.
Should we even go there when countries like Kenya have outstripped us in terms of when they got their school of law and how they've expanded, Rwanda and the rest, and we are still in this microcosm of legal education?
The reason why I brought this example is because of when he said that the shift system is political. And I don't want to read into motives. I will stick with the facts.
Well, he's saying it's political, so you can let it that slide.
I'm just trying to say that they've always been improvement. So in the past, it started with just one campus, now 3 campus. So if now we have shift system, we are all trying to call for improvement. And we are even proposing, the SRC is proposing that this year, they should even get a campus at UPSC.
Right.
In any case, the Green campus is a rented facility at Gimpa. The Kumasi campus is a rented facility at KUST.
Right.
So we are proposing that this 499, they should admit them. And
I mean, even University of Ghana, why don't we extend and have others there?
My background check was that the school proposed to University of Ghana and they said they don't have space in the past, so they didn't want to. So that's something that UPSC is available. Even the civil service hall. Yesterday I made mention of this.
Right.
Civil service hall. They have a big hall that is once in a while that they use. So they can use it for lecture hall.
So these are alternative solutions that we can use.
Exactly.
Let me come back to you, Hassan, very quickly. Why the hue and cry? Legal education has always been exclusive anyway. Like I made mention of with my example, it's been very exclusive. When you're taking 4, 5, 6% of what? Cutting out about 95%, it has always been like this. And I'll go back to what, I mean, we found out recently about 1960 itself and the fact that only 97 out of 600 made it into the law school. And eventually even graduating, it was just a very small number, I think 20 something. It's always been exclusive. What's your wahala?
I read that document myself. It did not tell us who was applying for the exams. Were they farmers? Were they drivers?
Were they what?
I didn't know their profession. From what background were they applying for?
Okay, so I know some people were members of parliament in there. They were applying. They wanted to become lawyers. There were teachers in there. There were business people. All of them were trying to become lawyers. But would you fault them? I mean, they were all entering the system hoping...
I'm not disputing it, but these are not teachers, members of parliament, trying to go into law. We have qualified. We have the LLB.
Right.
We have the certificate that qualifies us. In fact, before 2012, right after my certification, I could just walk into Makola.
Right.
So you introduce something in 2012 and make it look like a law, and you talk about exclusivity. For what? Now, we are talking of progressiveness by asking other universities to give us space so that we can run the course there. How do you juxtapose that exclusivity with the lack of infrastructure? You don't have the structure, don't talk of exclusivity. Because people have passed theirs on 499, you are not able to take it, not because of exclusivity, but because you don't have the space. Let's deal with the issues and stop talking English.
So technically, the failure is not you failed to meet the benchmark, but the failure is we have failed to provide the space to allow you to.
That is exactly what it is. Because are we saying that the 499 actually failed? Let me show you what it means. You get 78%.
Well, per the notice, they did fail.
Well, that notice.
Per the notice, they did fail.
You see, you don't provide. Let me show you. I'll read this. I'll read something. I'll use that. Article 19(5) of the Constitution.
1992 Constitution. Right.
A person shall not be charged with or held to be guilty of a crime. In this case, it's a crime. But I just want to give you an idea of something. A crime which is found on an act of omission that did not, at the time it took place, constitute an offense. At the time it took place. If we stretch
this... Of course, we know in the law about retrospectiveness.
So it doesn't actually apply.
And really, you can't...
We don't apply the law retrospectively.
And I'll come to you with this, Wanda. You can't be saying that something that was not a crime when I committed it is a crime now, and so retrospectively you're going to...
You cannot apply it retrospectively. So in essence, that notice, as I said, is void ab initio.
Okay, void from the start. How do you respond to that? What do you think of that?
Yeah, if I want to respond to this directly,
no, be very forthright.
Yeah, it may conflict with our position is that the 499 ought to be admitted because the notice is late. But the quotation here, the article 19 that he has just quoted, you see, about crime, retrospectivity in public law may apply on some civil matters. It is only on crime. No, we are all learning. It's only on crime that you cannot be retrospective. Because we are all learning, people are watching.
Right.
And he has quoted, what he quoted has to do with crime.
I actually stated.
And he stated that. To be clear, he stated that.
Yes, and I'm saying that this matter that we are discussing has no element of crime in it. So on the basis of that, this cannot support it.
Okay, so you would also say that his comment is void ab initio.
That is clear. Now, to the issue about the progressiveness of the system.
Right.
In the past, even after you get a 50%, you go for interview.
Right.
Today, the interview element is no longer there.
So from 2012, you're talking of 2012.
Yes, I'm just saying that It just as the Constitution itself is a living organism. All institutions are supposed to work in a progressive manner. So I'm saying if the General Legal Council today decides that, look, there should be a new threshold, that, people have to perform very well, because, I mean, I'm careful as to giving key informations out. But one of the justifications they gave is that last year, for example, somebody did very well in the objective. I think got 38/40.
Yes. Which is about what? 19 out of 20, correct?
Yes, did very well, and then the essay couldn't write very well, but because he had done well at the objectives, he got an admission. Yeah. So they were trying to bring.
Because 38, that would mean you just need 12 from section B.
The person cannot write very well, but maybe just the objective, he was lucky, and then he's in the law school. So that's why they brought this. We said that may be a good reason, but give proud notice.
Right.
Give proud notice.
But is that really any element of luck? When you've told me 50% is 50%. 50%, no matter how you secure the 50%, once it's not illegal, it's 50%. But that brings me to another point of exam leakages and how problematic that really is becoming. We've heard so many things about why even this 50 plus 50 to get 50 is happening. Ones that we cannot corroborate, and so we'll be very careful about spewing here. But the bit too that is really troubling is the fact that you have some law students working their behinds off just to make it into the School of Law. Only for some people sometimes, like we've heard year on year, to get certain materials that puts them, makes them primus inter pares, puts them far ahead of others. That in itself is a problem. When you want to be this stringent, you must ensure that your exams are watertight. Your take.
Did you say there were leakages?
Sir.
Alleged, okay. Because
some of the things I know I can't put out here, so let's leave it as alleged.
Okay, since an allegation, in law, the premium that we put on allegations is not as the same on fact. So because it's an allegation, I wouldn't go mad. But if indeed,
let's play this game. Wonder. Are you trying to tell me that over the years, the many things you've heard, and sometimes even exams and the other things that have happened behind, are you telling me that you are oblivious to this? Is that what you're saying? Over the years?
The point I'm trying to make, one, if indeed there were leakages, then it's unfortunate and should not be encouraged. You understand? But I want to speak to facts. As we're here, we talk about the fact that we've audited the raw scores, we have the notice, the advert. These are facts. But if you're talking about leakages and they are not evidence, I'm happy you said they are allegations. And I'm saying that in law, the premium on allegation is not the same as on evidence. So on that basis, I will not want to talk much on the leakages because I have no evidence.
So what do you call it? Supposing there are some thoughts out there that XYZ could be in exam A to get you into X institution. And they go and sit the exam and you actually see that XYZ actually came in that exam to get into institution X. What would you call that?
Yeah.
And people had maybe even had information about a week before and all of that. So whilst others were studying, others were studying answers. How would you, of course, I've not mentioned any institution's name and I've not, but what would you call that?
Yeah, no, this is a very key information, and I'm happy I'm here this morning. And indeed, the SRC, as part of our recommendation, we recommend that for the next entrance exams, the question should be printed the morning of the paper. You understand? If it is the exam question is printed in the morning of the paper, for example, if the paper starts at 10 and you print the question paper at 9, it will be very difficult to have leakage. You understand?
So that's a proposal from the SRC?
Yeah, based on information. I mean, we are very listening administration. So based on this information, it's very vital. Right. And we thank you for this. We thank you.
Right. How do you quickly react to that? Because I want us to wrap with the recommendations you have here. Okay? Yeah. Some of those recommendations, he's just made one where he feels exam questions to be printed the very morning, maybe an hour prior to time for sitting the exam. Do you think that's one of the solutions?
It's almost impossible, and I'll tell you why.
Right.
Exams begins at about 9 or 10.
Exactly. My mind went to that.
That would be impossible. I just feel that it's unfortunate, but obviously these are supposed to be people who are credible, and those are the people we expect to run some of these exams. So to have these things going on, that is if it actually is happening. In fact, I have heard bits and pieces about this issue. I don't have the facts as he's actually said, but indeed, I don't also distrust or I do trust the sources. Some of them are very credible. So
sources when it comes to what?
I mean, whoever gave me that information. Okay. I don't think he will lie about anything anyway.
Right.
But if these are things that are actually happening, then we need to look at it and find a way to actually stop it. But I don't think printing exams in the morning really helps. We should find people who are credible, people that they can be trustworthy to actually man some of these things.
And maybe for punitive measures, for heads to roll if exam leakages still continue. So we trust you, but if there's leakage, we're going to hold you accountable.
But you see, one of the problem with some of these things is to the effect that we don't even speak about it. We cover it.
We cover it?
Yes.
Who does the covering?
What do you know about this thing? Have you heard anything about it? It's just a rumor as it stands. But if we expose some of these people, if we brought it up as a conversation, then heads must roll.
Right.
But they might not even bring it out for you to know that it actually happened.
Gentlemen, we have just about 3 minutes. So I'm going to give you, each one of you, 1 minute on recommendations, and then we'll wrap up in 30 seconds each on your final words. You have put certain things out there in that presser that you held yesterday. Focus on key recommendations that you feel are crucial if we are going to change what we have now pertaining to legal education. Hassan?
I think the entrance exam should be scrapped.
Entrance exam should be scrapped?
Should be scrapped.
Right.
2, we are calling on the immediate admission of the 499.
Okay.
It has to happen, and it has to happen fast and now.
Are you one of the 499?
I am not.
Okay.
We need a political will. In this case, let me stretch it to Parliament to actually bring the changes that we need.
Okay.
An LI could make a difference.
Right.
The AG should also speak to the issue. We need to know the position of the president because he's the president's representative.
Right.
I think the GLC needs a total overhaul. And
should the GLC be scrapped or overhauled?
The overhaul could have, I wish that it is scrapped.
You wish it is scrapped?
Yes, I wish it is scrapped. Because if it is not there, maybe we would find Education Ministry to manage some of these things. But whichever way, whether it is scrapped or it's a total overhaul, where we don't have those, you see, I find it a bit of a conflict of interest.
Your 1 minute is up.
So basically, we are asking that the illegalities also should be removed, like the undertaking. In fact, this year, it will interest you to know that an academic reference was supposed to be dated in the year that you are applying for the exams. It doesn't expire. So why would you even introduce it?
Okay. Your take in terms of recommendations in less than a minute.
Yeah, thank you very much. And because we are here to push the interests of the aggrieved law students, I think it's fair to let you know that the aggrieved law student, one of their leaders, just said, I should inform you to put out numbers out so that they can call or test into the program. The aggrieved law students.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Right. So on the recommendations is that going forward, apart from, it's clear that the 499 students, the SRC, we've recommended that they should be admitted based on the consistent practice of the General Legal Council in the past. Because those who have gotten the 50 plus should be considered for admission. Now, on the recommendation, we are saying that the General Legal Council, going forward, they should be mindful respectfully of Article 296C, which says that administrative bodies like the GLC and criminal regulations should publish it via a constitutional instrument and statutory instrument. It's in the Constitution, Article 296C. So if notice of this nature is coming out, it should come out, it should be published through the constitutional instrument and statutory instruments. It's one of the recommendations. And then we're also recommending that if there is an issue of space, then UPSC, the Ghana School of Law, can rent a space at UPSC to use as lecture facility. These are short-term recommendations. You understand? We also look at the hall at the Civil Service Hall. It can be a short-term measure so that they can, if it's an issue of space, we can. But for the long term, the law village, we call on corporate Ghana, we call on the government to release funds, to release funds for the law village to be completed. These are the long-term plans. And before we end the show, to say that for those who are lucky, and including the 499 that we are pushing for, the SRC has established a scholarship fund. Because even if you pass your entrance exams and you're not able to pay the fees, you cannot be admitted. We have established a scholarship fund.
I'll just say this on air, not to truncate you, and I beg my producers to do this. I know someone who is visually impaired, who has got admission, and requires funds. So maybe this is something that a conversation that we should have. I believe you should be able to assist people like that. I'll not mention his name.
Yes, and it's a very transparent process. From Monday, the application starts on Monday on the SRC website,
right?
www.gslsrc.org. And we thank the corporate Ghana and governmental institutions who are supporting us so far, like Ghana Gas, Ghana Standard Authority, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Minister for Works and Housing.
So point well made there. How much are you paying this year? 13,000?
15,600 for the part one, but they are yet to conclude that of read the part two.
Right. Yes. Unfortunately, gentlemen, this is where we're going to have to wrap the conversation, but it continues. If you've not contemplated legal education, you may think this is a matter of them versus us until it becomes your problem as well. But we've been joined this morning by Hassan Asari, National Association of Law Students. Thank you so much, Hassan, for joining the conversation. Wanda Victor Kuto is SRC President, Ghana School of Law. That's how we draw the curtains on the conversation, but it will continue in our homes and beyond. But coming up, we have more on Prime Morning. Do stay.